The pharmacy line at Walmart tells you everything you need to know about getting old in America. Last Tuesday, I watched my neighbor Margaret count out 8 prescription bottles from her basket. 8. Blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes, arthritis, depression, sleep aids, heartburn, and something for her bladder. She's 89. I'm 91, and my basket was empty. The pharmacist looked at me like I was lost. "Can I help you find something?" she asked. I told her I was just walking through, and she stared at me the way people stare at someone who speaks a foreign language. Because in America, not taking pills at my age is foreign. My doctor calls it a miracle. My friends call it luck. My daughter calls it stubborn. But I know the truth. It wasn't luck that kept me off those 8 medications. It was dirt under my fingernails and the smell of tomatoes warming in the sun. It was knowing that the earth gives you everything you need if you know how to listen. When I was 7 years old in Korea, my grandmother taught me that food is medicine. She would walk me through her garden every morning before school, pointing to the bitter melon for her blood sugar, the garlic for her heart, the greens that kept her joints moving. "Pills are shortcuts," she would say in Korean. But shortcuts don't teach your body how to heal itself. When my family came to America in 1955, I was 22 and pregnant with my first child. We settled in California, and I wanted to fit in so badly. I shopped at Safeway instead of growing my own food. I bought Wonder Bread instead of making rice. I fed my children TV dinners because that's what American mothers did. For 20 years I tried to be American, and for 20 years I got sicker. My blood pressure crept up. My joints ached. I couldn't sleep. The doctor started talking about pills. That's when I remembered my grandmother's hands in the soil. That's when I planted my first tomato in American dirt. I was 42 when I started my garden. Just a small patch behind our house in San Jose. My husband thought I was crazy. "Why grow food when we can buy it?" he asked. "Because buying it wasn't keeping us healthy," I told him. "Because every time we went to the grocery store, I could feel my grandmother's disappointment. Because food from plastic bags doesn't remember where it came from." The first year, everything died. The soil was too sandy, too dry. My tomatoes looked like small, angry raisins. My lettuce wilted before it had a chance to grow. I almost gave up. But then I remembered what my grandmother taught me about failure. She said failure is just the earth testing your commitment. So I tested the soil, added compost, learned about California weather. I didn't know anyone who might understand what I'm really talking about here. Most people think gardening is a hobby, something to fill retirement time. But if you're still here, maybe you see it differently. Maybe you understand that some things are worth fighting for. The second year, I got 6 perfect tomatoes. I cried when I bit into the first one because it tasted like Korea, like my childhood, like medicine that didn't come from a bottle. By the third year, my garden was feeding our whole family, and something miraculous was happening inside my body. My blood pressure normalized. My joint pain disappeared. I was sleeping through the night for the first time in years. When I turned 50, my doctor ran every test he could think of. I don't understand, he said, looking at my results. Your numbers are better than most 30-year-olds. What are you doing differently? I told him about the garden, about the Korean vegetables I was growing, about eating with the seasons instead of eating from boxes. He nodded politely, but I could see in his eyes that he thought it was coincidence. Doctors are trained to trust pills, not plants. But plants had been keeping people healthy for thousands of years before the first pharmaceutical company opened its doors. At 60, I moved to a bigger house with more land. I expanded my garden to include medicinal herbs my grandmother had taught me about. Ginseng for energy, ginger for digestion, turmeric for inflammation. I started preserving vegetables for winter, fermenting cabbage into kimchi, making broths from vegetable scraps that would simmer all day and heal whatever ailed us. My neighbors thought I was the crazy Korean lady with dirt under her nails, but when they got sick, they started asking questions. When Margaret's diabetes was getting worse, despite 3 different medications, she asked about my bitter melon. When Frank's arthritis was keeping him awake at night, he wanted to know about my turmeric tea. When Susan's blood pressure spiked, even with her pills, she came looking for my Korean garlic recipe. I started sharing not just vegetables, but knowledge, the same knowledge my grandmother had shared with me in that garden in Korea 70 years ago. Food is medicine. The earth provides what you need. Your body knows how to heal itself if you give it the right tools. At 70, I was healthier than I had been at 40. At 80, people started calling me lucky. At 90, they started calling it impossible. But there's nothing impossible about it. There's nothing miraculous about eating real food that you grew in real dirt with your own hands. There's nothing shocking about a 91-year-old woman who takes 0 medications when that woman has spent 50 years treating her body like the temple it is. Last month, Margaret asked me to teach her how to garden. She's tired of counting pills, tired of side effects, tired of feeling sick from the medicine that's supposed to make her well. I told her what my grandmother told me. Start small. Start with one plant. Start with dirt under your fingernails and the face that the earth wants to heal you. I've been carrying these stories my whole life, and I'm not done talking. If any of what I'm saying makes sense to you, hit subscribe. There are more lessons from the garden that need to be shared. This morning I walked through my garden like I have every morning for 50 years. I picked tomatoes that taste like medicine, herbs that smell like healing, vegetables that remember what food used to be before we forgot. I'm 91 years old and I take 0 medications. Not because I'm lucky, not because of good genes, not because of some miracle, but because I listened to my grandmother's voice in the dirt. Because I chose to feed my body instead of medicating it. Because I remembered that the cure for what ails us has been growing in the ground all along. The pharmacy line at Walmart is full of people who forgot what my grandmother knew. That the earth is the first pharmacy. That food is the first medicine. That healing happens when you get your hands dirty and remember where you came from. My neighbors still call it luck. My doctor still calls it a miracle. But I know what it really is. It's the same thing my grandmother knew when she walked me through her garden all those years ago. It's the truth that every seed carries inside itself the power to heal, the power to nourish, the power to remember that we are not separate from the earth that feeds us. At 91, I have never been more certain of anything in my life. The cure for what ails America isn't in the pharmacy at Walmart. It's in the soil beneath our feet, waiting for us to remember what we've forgotten, waiting for us to come home.